prelim stuff. Good morning. This is Dr. Jan, your host. Thanks for listening to the Elite Performance Team podcast. If this is your first time listening, then thanks for joining us. The Elite Performance Team podcast is produced weekly for your enjoyment. You can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and iTunes at Elite Performance Team. Today's guest is Dr. Craig Banks from Pinnacle Chiropractic Health and Wellness Center in Cuyahoga Falls in Ohio. Good morning, Doc. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. How long have you been practicing chiropractic?
So I've been practicing for 17 years. Graduated in '03, so I was actually out. I did a preceptorship my last 4 months, so November would have actually been technically out of school. So yeah, I'm into my 17th year now, so pretty exciting.
I noticed that all of us as chiropractors, we all have a chiropractic story. What's your chiropractic story? How did you get introduced to it?
So introduced to chiropractic would have been my cousin. His name is Dr. Jim Morgenstern. He was my mom's first cousin. He had been practicing for quite some time. He was a bodybuilder, a little bit eccentric, which I think all of us chiropractors are, maybe just a little bit. So I didn't know him super well from a family aspect, but I knew who he was, and he had a practice not too far from my house. I was actually accepted right out of high school into a combined Bachelor of Science and Medical degree program, and I was intending on doing neurosurgery. I was really looking forward to doing brain surgery. That was my thing. I, however, had a lot of neurosurgeons tell me that they had no interest in doing it again if they had the option, and that was kind of discouraging to me. They said, mind you, this is the 90s. They said everybody's moving to group practices or hospital-based practices. You can't make up your own rules, really. Malpractice was through the roof, and they just really had a low patient satisfaction. So that didn't sound wonderful. Sure, money's nice and whatever, but job satisfaction was going to be huge for me. And then here was my cousin who's practicing, and his patients absolutely love him, and they were doing everything they could to make themselves better rather than to rely on drugs and surgery. And it just so much better fit my lifestyle. So he was a bodybuilder, and again, I'm a 19-year-old kid at the time. He was able to make his own hours, and he was doing well for himself. So I was very impressed by that. But my earliest memory of him, he was actually at a mall near me, and he had 2 Siberian tigers, cubs, and he had them out at the mall. And that was like one of the coolest things. So I'm like, okay, this guy's got tigers. He's got, sorry, my dog's barking in the background.
Yeah, I had to lock my dog downstairs because she's also on guard duty.
Yeah. But he had this amazing practice, and some things happened where I was forced to decide whether or not I wanted to stay in medical school because I was at Air Force ROTC and missed a couple weeks of summer classes, knowingly so. And then they were going to say I had to reapply for my seat. And I decided, I don't think I want this. I think this is kind of the universe telling me that this is a different path that I need to take. And I ended up going into chiropractic. And I mean, fortunately, it's everything that I could have ever imagined it being and then some. So that's how I've done it. And I just never looked back.
Now, over the years, have you changed like the way that you practice? Because I know that when I came out of school, I was taught this certain paradigm, this ideology of chiropractic, and I did it for 6 years, got frustrated, and then pretty much started my own thing. It's kind of like you said, eccentric. So I brought more of my personality into the office, and I try to get away from a lot of these treatment plans, and I try to become more functional with my patients. How about you? Do you experience the same kind of thing?
Yes. When I first got out of school, I precepted with my cousin, but then after that, I went into a practice that a gentleman had multiple practices. He was going to set you up and train you for 6 months in an existing practice and then put you out. And it was a lot of, I don't want to say cookie cutter approach, but it was very much a, put somebody on this care plan and treat with the lowest possible number of tech stuff in the office. And, it was just very unimpressive. And I think you get people better based upon your skills as a chiropractor, not how many fancy gadgets you have in your office. But at the same time, I kind of wanted more than what they were doing in those offices. They were kind of in like low rent little shopping malls and strip
Sure.
malls, the type of places that just say chiropractor up at the top and don't even have your name on the front of the door. I just didn't like that. So when I set up my practice, it was much different. I moved away from the whole shirt and tie thing. I don't do that. I'm very informal. I wear a t-shirt and tracker exercise pants, but I'm physical while I adjust people. I did a rehab diplomate program, and I did my CCSP for sports. So I definitely don't practice the way that I did when I started out. But I don't think that a lot of my adjusting has changed. I've added a lot of things. I do Graston. I do a lot more rehab. I do a lot more stretching and exercising, teaching people things on their own. And I try to get them well as fast as I possibly can, while explaining the benefits of, maintenance care, supportive care. And, just because you don't hurt doesn't mean you're done. But I don't want them to feel that they have to be stuck to some 36 visit treatment plan. Like I really have a crystal ball and can see that far into the future to know that they need 36 visits. That's just not me. So I have changed it up a bit.
Yeah, same here. I didn't understand the concept of having to wear a shirt and tie. And then I'm like, how am I going to get on the floor and do these exercises? Because I'm very hands-on with all my patients. And same thing, my adjusting style hasn't changed not much since school. But I like to get on the ground, do rolling patterns with them, do some functional strengthening with them. We have a great guy in our office, Dominic, who does our functional strengthening with our patients. But I want that hands-on interaction with the actual patients. And with a shirt and tie, it just makes no sense. It's more show than being actually practical with what we're doing. But I noticed that you have an MLS laser in your office.
Yes.
How are your results with your laser? Because I'm huge into photobiomodulation.
I'll tell you what, the MLS has been awesome. The reason I added it was because I felt like, based upon my research, based upon the demo, it can do some of the things that chiropractic can't. And we have our limitations with what we can do with our hands, especially I think in the field of neuropathy. I think chiropractic has a big limitation when it comes to peripheral neuropathy, and the laser has been great for that. And the other one is plantar fasciitis. Again, I always work on the feet. I do taping and I do some Graston stuff, but that laser turns those feet into just perfection in a few visits. And so feet have been a big one. I recently just injured myself on Monday, so I'll be going down for my own laser session a little later today. I did 4 days in a row, Monday night, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I'm going to go in again today. So it's helped me kind of be able to sit here and talk in relative comfort. But my patient results have been really phenomenal. I've had numerous people come back for other areas of their body, and they refer their friends. And not a cheap piece of equipment, but at the same time, well worth it.
Yeah, I agree. I have a LiteCure, which is more like a handheld device. It works very well, and I work with a lot with fascial planes. So it allows me to work on, besides just doing a lot of fascial stretching, and we do grass in the office too, but it allows me to work on these large fascial planes all in one shot instead of just having to like spot treat in different areas. The cool thing about you is because I just actually came from a chiropractic seminar yesterday, and it seems like some of our fellow chiropractors get out of shape as they get older. I noticed that, seeing your pics on your Facebook page, you're not just talking the talk, but you actually walk the talk as well. So what kind of activities did you start doing when you were younger? Because obviously you're in really good shape. Have you always been into athletics and bodybuilding, or is this something that progressively came on as you got older?
So I recall my first time of really thinking about bodybuilding, seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger on the cover of TV Guide for Commando. So, I mean, we're going back to probably I was like 7 years old. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. This guy has muscles. He's military. I just really thought it was a neat look.
I believe that was the one with Alyssa Milano. I had a little crush on Alyssa Milano back in the day.
I mean, if you're around our age and you didn't have it, I mean,
yeah,
probably something wrong with you. But I played football from age 7 until 18, and then I wrestled from 7th grade on. I wrestled a year in college. While I was at Palmer, I played rugby. While I was playing rugby, we had one of my teammates. He was a bodybuilder, and like I said, my cousin Jim was a bodybuilder as well. I started reading bodybuilding magazines probably age 12, but I mean, I lifted for sport, but I wasn't I didn't know what I was doing in regards to adding size. I wrestled my college year at 150 pounds. So when I was at Cairo school, I did the Body for Life program. Bill Phillips from EAS, he had the book.
Yep.
I felt like I was taking a step backward actually in my training technique. I thought I was maybe not doing enough, but I gained 5 pounds of weight overall, but I cut my body fat percentage at half. And for a change, I actually looked like maybe not a bodybuilder, but I looked like somebody who really trained and worked out harder. And that was kind of my first realization that 90% of it's diet. You know, you can train and you can work out and you do all these things, but until you get your diet on point, it's really not going to be a huge results that you're going to see. So I did my first show. I was age 24, so it was my first year out of Cairo school. I tried to do one while I was interning, but I wasn't doing it right, and I honestly got sick about, I don't know, 6 weeks in, and I had to scrap the whole idea of the show. I just wasn't dieting right. I was kind of starving myself, and it really was terrible. So then I hired a trainer and did my first show in 04, and I competed at 154 pounds. I'm 225 now. Now when I compete at about 197. So definite change in the physique, but I've been doing it now for 16 years. So it's enjoyable, and I do find that it lends that credibility to what I talk to patients about. I can't imagine being 350 pounds and overweight and telling my patients, hey, you got to eat rice and chicken when you know you're
Sure.
going and eating McDonald's and Burger King or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on the same page. My aspirations of Mr. Olympia and winning a Sandow trophy were doused in my early 20s when I noticed that my calves will never grow. I got skinny legs, even doing legs, but I'm a cyclist, so they're very aerodynamic. So basically, it helps me out in that sport. Are you currently still competing in bodybuilding?
So the last show that I did was 2017, and I will do another one because I'm 41 years old now. I do want to do one, excuse me, on this side of 40. My last one I was 39, so I want to do one on this side of 40 just because I know I can get in even better shape, and it's just a mental thing for me. I want to be able to say I was in my best shape after age 40, and again, that's something that I can tell my patients, hey, I did my best after 40. There's no
Sure.
reason you can't as well. I have no desire to turn pro. I have no intention of being on a pro stage or anything. I wouldn't even probably at this point in my life want to compete at a national level. I've qualified for nationals with some shows, but I just don't think that I need to or want to do that. It was always just a hobby for me. And through chiropractic, actually, I've gotten to be sitting next to the best in the world so many times. I've experienced being backstage, I've got pictures with the Sandow on my table. Phil Heath is one of my best friends, and I was working on him for many Olympias, and been out in Vegas. So when The Rock's sitting there handing him his trophy, I'm standing right there. So it's really cool. I've been able to be at that top level without it being me. So
Sure.
chiropractic got me there.
You bring up an excellent point about letting people, your patients, understand that I can still accomplish these things in my 40s. I'm 46, and I'm probably in better physical shape than I was back when I was 18. I just didn't have the knowledge or the wisdom back then. And so personally, I used to play football as well. I got two large herniations in my lower back. I got foraminal stenosis on both sides. I noticed that dropping the weight and basically doing a lot of core activation exercises, limiting certain activities really keeps me out of pain. So what I decided to do this week, I decided to actually go ahead and just copy and send out my MRI to all my different social media sites, so people could see that you could have two large herniations, you could have foraminal stenosis, you could have a torn ACL in your left knee and still be competitive with anything that you want to do. Now, just like you said, not on the national stage, but competitive with yourself. A lot of people get that MRI and they're basically, wow, I got this, I can't do this anymore. But there's other ways to go about it. Like I was speaking with a podcast with Vinny Galanti, who's a IFBB pro, and he said the same thing. He basically had to change the way that he actually trains. No more of the 1980s bodybuilding style where it was basically just pushing out 4 or 5 reps. He changed completely different the way he trains, and he actually trains one of my patients too. And I could see the more functional aspect of what he actually does with his patients and with his clients. The other cool thing you talked about was nutrition. Do you cover nutrition with your patients?
I do. Not just from I mean, a lot of chiropractors, I think, talk about it from a supplemental end, but I do try to talk about, not so much meal planning, but if they really ask me for help, I have no problem saying, hey, give me a 3-day diet log of what you're currently doing. And then we can kind of go from there. We can talk about what foods you absolutely hate and are never going to eat. And then if I can give you some strategies about how to change up your macronutrient balance and your meal timing, then I'll do that with them. And, sometimes you have to give a little bit of tough love as a doctor. And
Sure.
if somebody is really not taking their nutrition into account, you may have to sit them down. And it's not the easiest conversation to have. And you have to say, hey, listen, your weight is causing some of the problems you're having. And until you get your nutrition and your exercise under control, I can work on you and I can make you feel better in the interim, but this is going to be a forever thing. And you're really going to do your body, your health, and your family some good by cleaning up this diet, taking a few less liberties in regards to, your excess eating, and get yourself healthy. So I do it, and it's, like I said, it's probably one of the most uncomfortable conversations you have with a patient. But I do feel like if you don't do it, you're sort of doing them a disservice.
I agree 100%. I think it's being authentic with them, especially if somebody's coming in with like some acute pain. Usually the thing I'll ask them after we do their history, we do their, just tell them what we're going to do treatment-wise. While I'm working on them, I actually address what you have for breakfast today, what you have for lunch today. Because a lot of patients that come in through the door don't know that a lot of the foods that they're eating is inflammatory. Perfect example, I wrote a blog this morning on 2 patients that I talked with last night. They're about similar body structure and everything, and they both carry heavy purses. They both sit all day. They're both stressed, but they're also chewing gum all day. And then I'm trying to go over let's see if we could deal with the lowest hanging fruit. So I told him, that gum you're chewing all day for like the last 15, 20 years might contribute to your lower back issue. And then I told him how you're chewing too much. You're basically having these TMJ issues, neck issues, goes all the way down your lower back because of your fascia. And it kind of opened up their eyes wow, something so insignificant as chewing gum could actually create lower back issues. And I told them, listen, if you have no lower back issues, you could chew gum. You're probably not going to have any issues. But when you go ahead and you're sitting all day, you're stressed all day, you're holding these heavy bags, eating poorly, and then you have a low back issue, you're basically throwing fuel on a fire. So I'm preaching to the choir, but that's how we try to address it with our patients. And with me, it's not an uncomfortable topic to talk with patients, because the other thing too, I like to show my fat pictures. Back when I was in chiropractic school, stressed out, pulling all-nighters for our tests. So I was thinking when I was in chiropractic school, I was pretty significantly out of shape. I was 230 pounds, just really out of shape. So they're like, wow, it's you're in good shape. I'm like, I've not always been like this. So I let them see that, there are some kinks in the armor here. I haven't always been a pretty high-end cyclist. I've actually been out of shape, but you could always get yourself back into shape just with a little bit of guidance. And we do the same thing. We ask them to bring us a 3-day food log, seeing how they start the day. We also try to get them not on a keto-based diet, but more of a plant-based diet with definitely having some animal proteins, but trying to limit their carbohydrates because it's inflammatory as well. You have some great other products, though, at Pinnacle. Can you talk a little about Kinetic Cream and how you went ahead and developed Kinetic Cream?
So Kinetic Cream has been in existence in some form or another for about 12 years. When I was first out of practice, there was an orthopedic surgeon that I was working with, and he had his own cream that I tried in kind of an alternative to BioFreeze, and I liked it, and it was different. It was anti-inflammatory. It had a product in there called cetyl myristoyate, and the only other real ingredient in there was a menthol base, which was coming from a natural peppermint oil. And the cetyl myristoyate had my patients getting so much better relief than the BioFreeze. And, BioFreeze really just kind of sits on there, gives your brain something else to think about, to counter irritant. And it doesn't really do anything for the tissue. It doesn't even get transdermal. So Dr. Soni, who was the guy who was the orthopedic surgeon, he eventually said, hey, I'm going to stop making the cream. And I said, why? This product's amazing. He said, Craig, you buy all of it. He's like, it just, you're the one who's buying it. I'm too busy of an orthopedic surgeon to market it, and it just, I don't have time. So I talked to him, and he was okay with me kind of coming up with my own formulation. But I did keep that cetyl myristoyate in there, and I added over 15 other anti-inflammatories to that, and now we have about 20 different anti-inflammatories in the product. I first had it with a nutritional company that manufactured it for me. I gave them the formula that I wanted. They did it in their lab. Then that company shut down. So I was like, you know what? I can't keep doing this. So I contracted a lab myself. I worked with them, and that was when it was Kinetic Cream in its true formulation. It was a lot of research, and there was a lot of back and forth. You can look at something on paper, you can do the research of this should work synergistically with this, and then it comes out and okay, this kind of smells and it doesn't feel right, and you're not getting the pain relief. But when I nailed that formula, I put this stuff on in the morning before one of my son's one of his wrestling tournaments. I put it on in the morning, and I could still feel the relief from it 8 hours later.
Oh, wow.
And that was when I knew, okay, we nailed this formula. And so it's been around ever since. Now, I run into the same problems as Dr. Sony does. I'm still a full-time practicing chiropractor. I don't have a lot of time to market it. But at the same token, it's sold all around the world. I've had it in Australia and Brazil and Europe, you name it, all over the country, top level NFL, NBA, WWE athletes support this and endorse it. And I'll be honest, I've never paid one of them. Never. Like they don't endorse it because they want money. These are things that they're just like, man, if I want this, I want to call you and I want a bottle sent. That's all they want. And that's been a cool thing. And even if I didn't develop it, this would be the product that I use in my practice. So we have it in a 4 ounce and a 16 ounce. It's a cream. And just recently, we also, and I had always kind of anticipated doing this once the laws were going to allow, but just recently we collaborated with a CBD company called Clean Remedies, and they wanted to use Kinetic Cream as a base for a cream that they would make and add their full spectrum hemp extract. So they have 600 milligrams of full spectrum hemp extract in a base of Kinetic Cream. And that's out there as well through their line predominantly.
Now you say you do Graston. Do you use the Kinetic Cream when you do Graston too?
I do, and that's twofold. Number one, I like the emollient level of it. I feel like it's just a better emollient than the greasy stuff that the tools come with. And secondarily, I feel like if you're doing Graston, or I actually use Smart Tools, so I shouldn't even say Graston, but if you're doing any type of IASTM, what I think we need to be doing is not destroying the tissue. So if you come out of there and you look totally purple, I feel like you're probably doing a little bit of disservice. And if you look at the real teachings of the Graston instructors and the Smart Tools instructors, they're not telling you to make somebody purple just so you can get a cool IG photo. They're saying, there's a neurologic aspect to this. Yes, there's obviously a muscle aspect to it. You don't need to destroy the tissue. So with having Kinetic Cream as the emollient, then you're getting an anti-inflammatory effect as well. So you're breaking the tissue down a little bit, breaking up some of the adhesions, but also then treating it with a little bit of an anti-inflammatory so you don't damage the surrounding tissue.
I have to agree with you there too, because over the years, probably over the last 5 or 6 years, I did take Graston too. I actually use Smart Tools as well, but I actually got a call from Graston. Stop saying Graston because you don't have the Graston certification. It is what it is.
Right.
But I've noticed that using a softer feel, even when I'm doing manual therapy on patients, I get much better results. And I was the guy when I finished taking my Graston course. I was working on some cyclists to work on a posterior chain. Their legs would be purple. Now it's like to the point where it's just basically, I wouldn't call it effleurage, which is really soft. Certain areas are going a little bit harder than others, but I found that doing less is more. And I don't use their emollient either. What I use, there's a company called BioCBD, and it's a CBD oil. And I was comparing because I have a good amount of runners that come in, and they get shin splints. So I'm working on their tibialis anterior. So one leg I'm doing BioFreeze, the other leg I was using the Bio CBD, and just like you said, it's more topical, it anesthetizes the skin instead of actually doing anything. The BioFreeze, but the CBD, patients notice a significant difference with the CBD oil. The only issue I have with it, it's very greasy.
Yep.
So it's greasy. It's like a amber color. So if you don't really work it into the skin, it stains your clothes. So that was the only issue we had with the Bio CBD.
Yeah, I'll have to get you up some of the Clean Remedy stuff because I think you'll like it. Number one, it's more of a cream base.
Sure.
There's a very small hue to it, but it's not intense, so it's definitely not going to stain anything. And then the other thing is, not too many of the CBD topicals or oils have anything to carry the product below the skin. So you get a very minimal penetration. You get, less than a 1/16 of an inch of penetration into the skin. Still better than BioFreeze, but you'll get substantially more. You'll get into the quarter, maybe even half an inch depth of penetration into the tissue with the Kinetic Cream version, just because we have MSM, emu oil, and the acetyl myristoyl are all massive transdermal carriers. So
Yeah, we'll definitely have to chat after we're done with this to get the Kinetic Cream into the office. At Pinnacle, what kind of patients are you seeing there?
Everybody from 0 to 92. So we have a very general based practice as far as overall patient base. I do have an associate, Dr. Kelly Gallagher. She has a lot of nutrition patients, and as she works a lot with standard process, and as do I. But once she's kind of a master at it, once she came into practice, I said, look, I'm just going to refer most of the standard process nutrition stuff to you, just because she's better at it than I am. And but we see everybody now. I do have a lot of athletes that come in. I have people who are local bodybuilders, local swimmers, football players. We're right by Kent State University. We're right by Akron University. So I have a lot of people coming in from the teams from both of those schools. I do a lot with some of the local high schools, so they'll have their kids and coaches and you name it kind of coming in. So there's a high percentage of sports, but we don't turn anybody away. Unless they're a jerk, then they got to go. But if you've got a spine, chances are I'm going to be able to help you and take care of you to the best of my ability, and I will definitely do my best. And if I can't, then I'm going to refer you out to somebody who I feel can help you. So it's a general practice. I do quite a bit with extremities, so I feel like surprisingly I'll get just as many people coming in for a shoulder or an ankle or a knee as I do for a spine. So that can be, again, any person in the population. They don't just have to be an athlete, but we have a pretty good base of different people.
Yeah, I really appreciate hearing you say that because I'm kind of in the same boat too. I have a general practice. We do work with a lot of athletes. I have one patient. She's been with me for like 4 years, and I think she's like 4 months pregnant now. And she's showing, and basically I'm still able to work on a lot of her issues, but the pregnant patients are not my specialty by any means. So I told her that, we're slowly going to start transitioning over to another doctor in New Jersey. Her name is Dr. Dower, who's basically specializes with pregnant patients. So I told her, I'm like, it's not that I don't feel I'm capable, but Dr. Dower is much more capable than I am with this. So I'm more comfortable with you having her see there. And then, after you have your child, if you want to come back here, by all means, would be more than happy to have you. Hey, Doc, if people want to contact you, what's the best way for them to contact you?
So 2 ways. Email, if you want to email me, it's contact@pinnaclechiro.com, CONTACT @PINNACLECHIRO.com. Or you can catch me on Instagram at cbank66. I'm pretty responsive to things, so if you message me, you message me and I'm not following you, it kind of gets stuffed over to the side, but I'll get to you eventually. But that's probably the easiest route.
And we also have you on Facebook at Pinnacle Chiropractic and Health and Wellness Center. If you want information on Kinetic Cream, you could go to kineticcream.com or put all the stuff in the show notes. If you want the CBD version of Kinetic Cream, you could go to cleanremedies.com. And Doc also has a podcast, and I saw that it was on YouTube as well. It's called optimalfunction.com. That's optimalfnxn.com. Doc, I really appreciate your time. Happy holidays with this year. Best of luck with your practice.
Same to you.
Thanks for listening to our podcast today with Dr. Craig Banks. If you would like more information on our podcast, follow us on Facebook at Elite Performance Team and Instagram, or subscribe on YouTube and iTunes to Elite Performance Team. And remember, train your brain, train your body.